Hey, you, I was thinking about you. And you know what I was thinking? I'm thinking it's time for you to soar. Having flip flopped my first couple of years in corporate America, going through mistake after mistake, I am passionate about making sure you don't have to go through those same mistakes. So, this is Getting Unstuck with me, Coach Katina. And this podcast is for anybody who's ever felt stuck, ever needed just some tips on how to move to the next level, whether it's a promotion or in your relationships. And today, we are talking about the importance of resilience, what it means, what it looks like, and some tips on how you can exhibit it and exercise it in your daily life. My guest today is someone whom I admire. I've watched her walk and work, and it has been incredible, and I want to introduce her to you. It is Dr. Bridgette Miles. She is an educator extraordinaire, and
Wow.
absolutely, and she exhibits resilience in what she does. So, Dr. Miles, audience, Dr. Miles.
Hey, you.
I love it. I love it. Listen, so we're talking about resilience, and before we even dig into this, let's just level set. Lots of different definitions about resilience. And for those of you watching, just go ahead and type in the comments what you feel like resilience is, what your definition is. And I'll ask Dr. Miles, just kind of give us what you think resilience is.
Well, I'm not going to get all educational or anything like that. I'm just going to say, to me, resilience is to bounce back.
To bounce back. And you don't know it, but she also played basketball in her former life. So bounce back, of course. I see her on the court. Now, anyway, bouncing back is perfect. And that's the other
Yes.
thing is that you're an educator extraordinaire, and you are real. You are relevant, and you're able to reach a wide range of audiences
Sure.
with your care. So we're talking about resilience,
Yes.
and I just wonder if there was a time in your life where you had to be resilient and what that looked like.
Oh, absolutely. If I rewind the tape, I would definitely say all my life I had to show resiliency.
All my life I had to fight.
To fight.
I love it.
Yes, I would say, fundamentally, I would say if I could really grab hold of something, Jeremiah 1:5
Okay.
is the theme of my life.
Wow.
That God has, He formed me before, before I knew who I was. He knew me before I was formed in my mother's womb. And, I go all the way back to the very beginning and say, okay, because He is the beginning, He made me, to know and understand that I can make it through before I could even realize and recognize that I'd be able to make it through. And that's anything, any challenge, any obstacle, anything that might come my way. It helps me out and to know and understand that God is with me and I will make it through.
Oh, I love that. So why would you say resilience is a critical skill? The bounce back is a critical skill for people to have.
Well, without it, right, you can be bound, you could be held back, you can be suppressed from reaching your fullest potential of who you are. Many times people get stuck in the muck, and not really realize that, you're purposed in life for greater things. And if you get stuck, there's a way to get out. There is an escape, to get out of things that you feel like you can't get out of. And there's hope that you can endure and get your way out once you use tools to make that happen.
I love that. So, and I am so not playing on words here, but the pivot. Talk to me about the pivot where, what happens even before the pivot. What does it feel like when somebody could be stuck?
Oh, it's tormenting. You just can't see your way through. It's like you're utterly in darkness, right? You don't know which way to turn, and I'm visualizing, those times where I was stuck, or I didn't know which way to turn. I felt like I was being pressed down and not and held down, almost in a way. If I can give you a picture of someone holding your head underwater,
Wow.
right? and you can't get out, and you're trying to fight your way out of it, and you just don't know how you're going. Like, you feel like sometimes it's just easier just to let them keep me suppressed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's vivid. And so what's playing through somebody's mind? What kind of words are playing through their mind when they're at that place? And I'm feeling like you're drawing on personal experiences, but like,
Absolutely.
what
Absolutely.
kind of, is this childhood? Is this adulthood? Is it just in general?
All of the above.
All of the above.
I mean, from anywhere from family, from and not just my adult family, but my childhood, my my growing up, my work life, different life experiences. It's real. I think words, sometimes, death, that's the
Wow.
worst part that it goes to. I hate to say that, but it's real, right?
That's
Because
the
people
extreme of it.
absolutely.
That's absolutely real.
But the words is bondage, is hopeless, destruction, all of those things tend to eat at your
Wow.
core, right? But when you figure out
Come on.
what it's all about, I said it was in darkness, but there's a light
There it
that
is.
happens and turns on, and it was there, but you turned it on because there's an acceptance that you have for what is real and what is necessary for you to be able to get out of the dark place that you're in.
Oh, that's good.
And you have to want that.
You have to want
You
it.
have to want it.
So that's like a mindset, sounds like.
Absolutely.
So you make a choice to get out.
Choice.
So those words, helpless, hopeless, that if you're a child, it could come from bullying. And I mean, I know you teach children and you've taught and you lead children. How much of what you feel like people hear about themselves impacts the just before the pivot?
Oh, it impacts them a lot. When I think about children that I serve daily, I teach kids, an analogy of water on wax, right? The words and the things that people say to you and do to you, like, don't let it penetrate. Don't be the sponge, but let it bead up and just roll off. Shake that thing off.
I love that.
Sometimes people can't shake it off so easily, right? But when you have people around you, because you can't see those drops on you, you gotta say, here, let me get that off your shoulder. Let me help you out.
That.
And so that's a huge thing.
And that's the pivot. So we're talking words. Words can hurt.
Absolutely.
Words absolutely can hurt.
Indeed, they
And
can.
if they're replaying in your mind, now you feel like, and you said head underwater, that's like drowning. Has anybody felt like that? If that's you, type it in the comments. Like, what have you felt like when you've been at your most beaten down? Has anybody else felt like it was drowning? Like you couldn't catch your breath, you couldn't see the light? You mentioned darkness. Anybody else? Just go ahead and type it in the comments what you felt. And then you said, but there is a light and there is a pivot. You mentioned two things, that the light was always there, you couldn't necessarily see it. And then you mentioned other people helping you
Absolutely.
to see. So talk about pivoting, the bounce back, the deciding to fight. What does that look like?
You got to make it up in your mind. You have to have a made up mind. But even there's times, it's as a child, you didn't have the choice, right? As a child, you may not be the one that makes that choice for yourself, because it could be somebody in your family that's doing something that's holding you back or pressing your head down. But you got to get to somebody. You got to get to somebody. That's why, in educational world, we always tell kids, find someone in the school, in your home, in your family, at least one person in a child's life that can give them hope and be that outlet for them. Is a large percentage of kids who can make it and be resilient with that one person than if it were no one at all.
Wow. So it's like you need them to find the light.
Yes.
And on the other side, I want to talk to anybody and say, be the light. be the light for somebody.
Be the light.
Let them know that there's some hope. Because, I mean, you could have had a bad experience. I remember I lost a job one time, and I believed the words. I put a whole script together about my worth based off of me losing that job. And those words reverberated in my mind. What would you tell somebody that's got these words reverberating in their mind that's holding them down?
Whew. Listen, it's easier said than done, first of all.
That's true.
Right? Anything that I can tell you right now, it's easier said than done, but don't let that hold you back. Right? Because we can say, well, you're not going through what I've gone through, or you haven't experienced what I've experienced. But sometimes, you know, the reflection of what you see in the mirror may not be exact, but it's still reflecting. You know, and so when you see what somebody else has gone through, it may not look exactly what you've been through, but in some way it reflects. Listen to that person, because they have been purposed to tell you their story or tell you the words to give you hope. Listen to what those words are.
Wow. So we're looking in the mirror. We're seeing what we see. I want to talk to the adult who was the child, who had the words, who had the stuff, and they managed to live through it, and they're quote unquote thriving through it, but not necessarily thriving. Maybe that's you, that you might admit you had a tough childhood. Some people stake their flag in that sand. Were there times in your childhood where you could have just staked your flag and said, I've been dealt this hand and this is it?
Listen, all right, can I just tell you a little bit about me that you don't even know?
Go ahead and share.
And so I'm gonna go all the way back, right? And what I'm considered, according to textbooks, what you might read in colleges and in psychology courses and so forth, is a throwaway child.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was abandoned and left abandoned in a home alone and was found. That's
Wow.
right. See, look at your face. You didn't even know. And you know, overcoming that, you know, you're haunted with those thoughts over the lifetime, right? Because you look back on those days. I mean, as I was a child, I was a baby, you know, but I have vivid thoughts of where I was at that time. I remember, you know, being in a crib. I remember being wet and crying, and you know, and so when I hear people's stories, it resonates with me, because that's that reflection that I'm talking about. I hear and I see that other people are going through some of the things that I've gone through, and you know, because people hear Dr. Miles, or they hear, you know, principal, or they hear the title or whatever it is, they have this figment, right, of, you know, well, she was never me, right? But you have no idea. You know, definitely I've been purposed, right, to be resilient. And it's not just for me to be resilient, but to tell somebody else, you know, that you too can make it. You can bounce back from any trial, any tribulation, any obstacle that you've been dealt. And that's going back from birth,
Wow.
right? And here I am many years later, still bouncing back.
Still bouncing
because
back.
Our lived experience is always going to present us with moments where we have to show how resilient we are. Now we can choose to, you know, be hood, or, you know, kind of fight our way out of a situation because that's what we learned and we were taught that way. But what is the benefit of something that is not going to truly help you to fight back in the right way, that's going to give you ultimate purpose for what you've been chosen to do?
That's great.
Make sense?
That's great. So it's important for you to know what your purpose to do. It's important for you to find your purpose, and it's important for you to defend it. It sounds like almost like you knew that you were destined for something great, even though your circumstances weren't great.
Destined. Absolutely.
I would say, how many of you feel like there's something more, but if you look over the track record, everything is kind of led to the not something more? If that's you, go ahead and say that in the comments. There is hope. There is a pivot. When you realize that you're put on this earth for a reason, and that there's something that you have on the inside that's great. Now, it might be challenging if you've been at a place that stifled you. Maybe it was your home life, maybe your last job. What does that look like? Uncapping your incredible potential after somebody stuffed you in a box.
You know, it's easy, you know, and maybe to avenge yourself, you might say, nah, 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 you know.
Once I made it out.
That's right, right. You know, because as a way to get back, back to what they put you through. But at the end of the day, is that beneficial for you? You know, you just have to be thankful. Gratitude is something I hold on to. Because it didn't have to be the way that it is, right? And so, you know, through work life and going through different challenges, you know, with my work life, you know, I never knew that I would be where I am now, right? But I think about it and I say, well, I've been purposed for such a time as this, right? And that, you know, as much as I love Coatesville and all the people in it and my neighborhood and, you know, my ride or dies and all of what it's given me, you know, to the people who tried to hold me down, I say thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
Because it helped me to see that I can stretch myself beyond the walls that are around me, and I can still make impact being stretched.
That is a great outlook. That's the pivot. That is the pivot. You said something already, mindset. You have to have a mindset to want to shift. You've got to see light even though you're in darkness. And that's the thing. If you're here on this earth, that's the light. Why would you be here unless there's a purpose for you? Right? So if you don't hear anything else, there is light. And the pivot is making a decision to follow the light. And to follow the light and be in the light doesn't deal with going back and nana and the retaliation. Sometimes people use the energy of I'm going to get them back, I'm going to prove them to get themselves up. But if that's how you got yourself up, that's fine. But make sure you heal and that you're not bitter.
Absolutely. And I will say, you know, healing comes in different forms.
Okay.
Right? And we look for it sometimes the way we see it, you know, or what we've experienced in the past. And so sometimes if you have a wound, you know, well, last time I put a Band-Aid on it and that Band-Aid helped out. Well, now I got a deeper wound.
Come on.
And so if I need some gauze, I need an ace bandage, you know, and a clip, you know, to make sure everything is held together. And, you know, when I'm saying that, I'm like, you know what? I thought I could do this on my own, but I need my family. I need my friends. I need some church help, right? I need my pastor to pray and help me through this because it's deeper. That wound is deeper than I can handle for my own self.
So bounce back is not a solo thing. It starts solo because you make your mind up.
Yes.
But it sounds like it's a team activity.
Team effort. It's a team effort. If you know, just like they say, it takes a village. It still takes a village, not just for your little baby, right? But even as an adult, we need a village surrounding us that we know that we can count on, we can confide in, we can talk to and go to and know, you know, that our deepest thoughts are with them and they're going to hold on to those things to help us, not to hinder, because we know that there's other people who are going to go and tell business and do all of those things. I mean, that's not, but you'll know who those people are, right? Because if they show you who they are, believe them, right?
And avoid them
and
as
avoid,
necessary,
right? Yes,
as needed.
Absolutely. And so then when you see that, then you say, okay, I can release this, right? One of the things that helped me throughout the different things that I have experienced is talking about it. There are many of those who feel like if I go to a coach, they're not going to be able to help me. If I go to a therapist, if I go to, you know, some type of I don't know, I say therapist again because it's definitely necessary. It's okay. It's definitely okay to go and talk to someone. I remember being in college, and on our dorm was an all girls dorm, and I was going through, I mean, just a horrific time of my life. And so many things were like chasing me down, haunting me. And I really didn't have any which way to go. I did not know how I was going to handle this besides hurting myself.
Wow.
And so thinking about that, I took the girls that were in our dorm and we talked. We had a group. I called everybody together in our lobby and I was like, we're going to have a girls talk. And what I didn't know at that moment, how much I needed that, right? I needed it, but I didn't realize that there were so many others that had a whole lot to say too.
Wow.
And then you start to say, wow, I didn't know that they were going through that. They didn't seem like anything was wrong with them, and so it was very helpful.
When you go through things by yourself, you bottle it up
Sure.
and you don't get healed the way you should. And then when you share and other people are experiencing it, it helps to get it out and it helps to listen
Absolutely.
to somebody else.
Indeed it does. I feel a clap coming. I'm sorry.
No worries.
I haven't visited that in a while.
Hmm.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. That's what getting unstuck is about. It's understanding that you're not in this thing alone. And just as you shared that the pressure can be so hard that you want to take the purpose out.
Right.
You are purposed to be here. Can you imagine the lives that would not have been impacted if you would have been successful at taking yourself out? There was a diabolical plan against you to take you out, but you have impacted thousands. You have been the light for thousands. Hundreds of families, generations of people that have seen that they can go to college.
Yeah.
They can make something of themselves because they were purposed, because what you saw in them resonated with the pain you've been through.
Yeah.
And you were able to pull them out. That is resilience.
Yes. It is.
That is the bounce back. That's an
It is.
assist. That you are masterful at that without even knowing it.
Wow.
And I want to thank you on behalf of the community that you've already helped and the community that you're helping right now. Has anyone ever felt like you were in your challenge alone? Has anybody felt like it was just you and you didn't know you needed to bounce back? You just thought that that was what it was. Think about it. That analogy that you gave us in the beginning, like your head is underwater. You are not here left to drown. If nothing else, I hope this conversation is the light for you, that you are here for a reason and there's greater. You are not your last firing. You are not your last taunting and bullying. You are not your last isolation. You are not your bad relationship. You are not the diagnosis. You are created with purpose.
Absolutely.
And if you find the light, there is bounce back. Let us be your light, that you're created with purpose. There's more to you than what you've been through.
So true. So true. When you visit those thoughts and you go back, I said the word gratitude. I envelop that, like I'm saturated with gratitude for the experiences, right? Sometimes I find myself thanking God for the good and the bad, and there was a lot of bad, but there's so much more good, right? Because I know that. And I've come to know even more so that how the word is so true, right? All things work together for good, and when I think about that and say, well, thank you, because even though it was so bad, it's still for good. And so I wrap those words around my finger as a reminder that it might look bad, but it really is good. It might feel bad, but it really is good. It hurts, but it really is good. And so I think about those things, and I let them sink into the depth of who I am, because I know that there are little boys and girls, young people, adolescents, young adults that are yearning for someone to show them the light, right? And let them know that they can bounce back. It's inevitable that if you make up your mind, if you put some things together, those pieces of the puzzle, you put them together, it's going to work out for your good.
I I need to take a minute. I need you all to write down what you're grateful for. It's easy to add up what doesn't work. And you said you thank God even in the bad that he was there to carry you out. And so I just need you to write down things that you're grateful for, things that worked out. Uh, what what did you carry out of the fire? You've got your dignity. You've learned that you're able to run faster. You learn that you're able to pivot. Go ahead, flood the comments with light. Flood the comments with light. And maybe your comments are going to help somebody out because you're not in your situation or circumstance alone. What you learned in your situation can impact somebody that's just reading your comments. So take a minute and encourage each other. Encourage each other in the comments that there is light, and you need to make up your mind to go into the light, follow the light. And you said the light is like somebody else, somebody that can tell you how great you are. I know I'm a woman of faith. You're a woman of faith. I don't know what your faith is, but I know God tells me how great I am, even
Yes.
when I don't feel like I am.
Yes.
So I pray, I meditate
Yes.
On what God says about me, on his scriptures. But even in the workplace, even in the family, find the light. Find who is giving you food for your purpose, to remind you that you are resilient, that you are tough, that you can build up this mental toughness. So talk to me about, I don't want to cut you off from anything you want to share in this moment.
I would say if you can't find the light, be the light.
There's that.
Right.
There's that. Sometimes we get so focused on our careers and we've moved on past our traumas, our issues, our stuff,
Right.
that we forget that we can be the light for somebody else.
For someone else. And I mean, because it's a lost world, like there's a lot of people that are seeking. There's a lot of people who are looking, for somebody that they can identify with, right? And so I mean, there's a whole lot of people in it with an identity crisis, and that goes in so many different directions in and of itself. Yet when you find out who you are, and who and what you've been purposed to be in life, it makes so much more sense. And it might start sounding like repetitive or a little redundant as I say this, but I'm saying it because it's truth, right? It's my truth. I've walked it. I've run it. I've fought it. Like all of those things that go along with it, and still God says, you know what? Resilience is who you are.
You
Right.
are the bounce back.
I am the bounce back.
I love that.
Sounds
Type
like
that
a
in
shirt.
it does. Type that in the comments. I am the bounce back. I love that. You heard it here first. So no, I am the bounce back. Type that in the comments. And so resilience in your personal life echoes in your professional life.
Yes, it does.
And how would you say that you being able to bounce back has helped you professionally?
Professionally, I would say, it's quite interesting because there's a definite story that goes along with that. When somebody doesn't see your worth and the value of what you bring to an organization, to the whole, it's dissatisfying. It's very disheartening. It can put you in a box and make you feel less than who you are. Right. I've traveled that road for many years, all in the name of, you know, I'm doing this for the kids, right? And that's my heart, and that is my, like, my purpose 100% is for kids in my professional life. Everything is about kids. If it's not what's good for kids, then we're going to have to revisit it and try, you know, you're going to have to work it out in a different way, but make sure that it's about the kids. And so when I look back at different challenges that I've had, you know, in my professional life, whether it was, you know, having qualifications for a job that I didn't get, right? If it were, and that's happened several times, right, over and over again, you start to doubt, like, am I qualified? Am I good at what I do?
Oh, wow.
When others, when others don't see, you know, I would say the bounce back is when other people don't see your value, your worth, you look in that mirror and you tell yourself, because you have to tell yourself and feel it within yourself that you are valuable, you are worth something, you are beautifully and wonderfully made.
Love it.
Right?
Yes.
And you know, I often think of from beauty from beauty from ashes,
Yes.
right? And I think, wow, that kind of mirrors me, right? That there were ashes, right, burnt up and thrown away, you know. But here I am, you know. I'm not saying beauty in the eyes of you know what might be on a magazine per se, but beauty because I know in my heart, I know that I do good, right? I set out and intend to do good to everyone. I never intend to do harm or do something bad.
That's all right. Just say
Excuse
it
me?
again. I never intend to.
I never intend to do harm to others or make others feel bad. I know in my job, there's times where I have to, you know, be the principal or be the evaluator or whatever it may be. And so, but it's all in love, right? So I come from a place where there's growth and there's understanding and there's improvement, you know, so the other person doesn't feel that their value has been diminished.
Imagine that. How many of you have been so for the company, for the organization, for the family, that you started to lose sight of who you were and what you were purposed to do because in your mind it was for the greater cause and the greater good, and you allowed people to diminish your light? If that's you, go ahead and say, it was me, it was me, it was me. Some of you might still be there. I hope you hear this loud and clear, that whatever their external circumstances are, if it's not improving you and growing you and moving you to a next level, then it might not be for you. Their comments, you know, even if you didn't get the job, you didn't get the role, or you see constant things where it could change how you view yourself. If it's not changing that you view yourself for the better, it's not for you. It's not for you. So hear that loud and clear, that you need to understand your own light, and nobody can diminish that by them not putting you where you deserve. You need to look inside and remind yourself who you are and how great you are.
And I'll add to that, because even in the bounce back, you know, being satisfied that bouncing back, I kept my integrity, right? I didn't put others down in the process, even though they didn't value me, right? You know, it wasn't like I'm gonna get you back. I held on to what God said when He said, "Vengeance is mine." Right?
That's good.
So then I'm like, all right, and it's a hard pill to swallow. It's hard because you do, you know, in a sense, you know, I'm not going to sit up here and act like, you know, it was like, oh God, this is what you need me to do, I'll do it. And I'm saved, right? But I'm human, and I know that, you know, I wanted, you know, the people who have hurt me to pay for them hurting me.
Absolutely, that is
In
real.
every
How many
aspect.
of you felt that? Did you visualize it? Did you draw it out? I'm just kidding. No, it's real. It's human, and especially when you know you're innocent and you feel wronged, and
Absolutely.
that's the human part.
It's the human part of it. And so, you know, sometimes you got to take a step back, because you don't want to step out of who you are. right? Holy, right? I mean, holy, not holy,
Completely.
like, yeah, completely. WHOLLY, right?
love it.
And so it's like you wanna look at that and say, this is what I need to do so that I can better myself, and just know and trust that it is going to work out, because guess what? I had worse things happen, and it worked out,
Wow.
and I've overcome it. And so if that's not as bad as what I've already overcome, I know that I'm going to be all right. You
That's
know what I
good.
mean? And so to know that, I left one situation, and in less than, a week or two, that I was walking into another situation that, was better, right? A better situation for me for that time, then I know that I'm okay, and I'm going to work it out.
That is so good. That is so good. So pivoting toward the light, choosing not to stay in darkness, and even though it may hurt, it's important to heal so that you don't take that into your next. Remember who you are, and resilience is bouncing from where the situation and circumstance put you, allowed you to go mentally, bouncing back to who you really are. How many of you are ready to bounce back from some things? If you take an inventory over your life, some circumstances took a toll on you and who you value yourself to be. If that's you, say, that was me. I want you to do as Dr. Miles said, look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself who you really are.
Let me say something
Please
right
do.
there, because I'm going to say this word, and that is authenticity, right? Be real, be genuine. When you're taking that inventory, if you have to write down everything, that you've been through, don't skip a little part of it, right? Because you haven't healed from it. Write that down, bold it, underline it, and highlight it, because that might be the area where you really need to bounce back from. Sometimes we skip over things, because we don't want to remember. We don't want that to really be re-traumatized by those things, and so they really hold us back, because we're feeling like we're making it appear as though we're not. We don't see it, and it doesn't see us, but it is grappling at your heart, right? It is holding on, and it's holding on, and you're not going to be able to really get through and be an overcomer by like faking out yourself, right? To make you think that, oh, I've outdone that, and it's really not real. So be real.
So good. So good.